Hi everybody, welcome to our weekly health talks. This week we're talking about hair, skin, and nails. It's probably going to be a little different than what you expected. I think a lot of people, when they think about what they're going to do for hair, skin, and nails, they're looking for that magic combination of things to take to make sure that it's going to make it grow. That's why we call this Beyond Biotin, because I get a lot of people asking me, am I getting enough biotin? Do I need more biotin for my hair? Is that something I should do? Even one person who came in, their hairstylist had talked to some medical doctor who convinced them that they have to keep loading up biotin because this one study said so. So we're gonna look beyond that and try to understand all of the aspects of it and just understand it from what I would call a holistic point of view as opposed to a reductionist point of view. Reductionism being looking at just something like biotin. And biotin is a vitamin B, right? It's part of the vitamin B complex. It's actually vitamin B7, although some people call it vitamin H. So we're starting to get some confusion, right? We all want to own it and take that one little thing and make it our own. So we're going to talk about hair, skin, and nails, but before I get into that, I just want to remind everybody to always question things, questions the things that I say even, and confirm them and think about them for yourself so they make sense. When we talk about health, and we've been talking about this for a long time, there are a lot of things that just didn't make sense to us that were handed down to us from health authorities. And big news this week is that the University of San Francisco had done some digging and found 50 years ago that the sugar industry paid Harvard scientists a lump of money to create science that said that fat was the problem and not sugar. And this is something we've talked a lot about. So I find that very interesting, but again, just because we're bringing as what we can to it, make sure it makes sense to you and it sounds right instead of just something that some authority told you. So first of all, when we're talking about hair, skin, and nails, I'm going to talk about the fact that these are parts of your body that are giving you some type of information about what's going on. And that's why it's really valuable. One of the people that I was looking into some research this weekend was this Indian medical doctor, and he made a very good point. He said, look, your hair's falling out because it's not a vital organ. It's not something that is necessary to keep you alive till tomorrow. So all those nutrients that would normally go to your hair are being used for other things to keep you alive. And that's a signal saying, look, you're not getting enough nutrients in your body to make sure that all your vital nutrients or your vital organs are thriving. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that problem to that degree. Now, there are multiple things that are contributing to, hair and skin and nail conditions, but that's one thing to really think about. Is, again, what we go back to, are you just simply starving your body to death of simple little things that you need? And that applies to the skin and the nails, and all of these have very similar things that they need. So the body uses nutrition for vital organs first. Makes sense, right? Of course. Growing beautiful hair doesn't keep you alive till tomorrow. And hair, skin, and nails are not a priority if more important parts are starving. Something to think about. So let's start head first, and let's talk about hair. Okay, so as a functional approach to it and thinking about it, what are all the things that we need to make hair? And let's make sure we're getting those in our body. I think that makes sense. And if you go online and you start looking at this person's health blog and that person's health blog about these, they're going to try to simplify it and say, oh, you need these 5 things, right? If you have this, 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 and this, then you're going to be fine. And I've made an attempt to simplify it as much as I can, but again, that's that holistic approach. One of my golden rules of thumb is always that you need a little bit of everything, all the time, with an emphasis on your weakness. And one of the things that you're going to find out is when you start paying attention to what's going on with your hair, your nails, and your skin, you might start to discover what your weakness is a little easier so you can put that emphasis there. And that's a really good tool for us. The basic building blocks, we need vitamins A through E, all of those vitamins. Obviously, we have something called keratin that vitamin A is essential in helping you with. Vitamin B's, not just one vitamin B, but the whole vitamin B complex. And again, this is something that it's just a way to re-educate, make people rethink about things. Because they have isolated down to this is one chemical that would be vitamin B5, and this is one chemical that would be vitamin B1. But when you look at how things occur in nature, they are surrounded by all these other things that help it function and utilize it. And so I'm always going to steer people towards trying to get it in a whole food, because there are nutrients in there that we still don't even know exist that were packaged in there by nature, and really important to do that. And again, when we try to isolate it out and say, oh, this person just needs more vitamin B1, I'm going to always raise an eyebrow about that, to think, okay, everything else has gotten in there, but somehow they just missed that one tiny little chemical that they're isolating out, like biotin. But we also need D, and actually C, of course, vitamin C is very important. Vitamin D and E. So A, D, and E are what we call fat-soluble vitamins, right? So again, it's important to make sure that you're getting fats in there too. Not just because you need it for your hair or your skin or your nails, but also to utilize these vitamins. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. Proteins. When we're talking about collagen and keratin, these are proteins. So in order for your body to make proteins, it needs proteins, right? It needs those basic building blocks to do that. So we want to make sure that you're getting enough protein. Iron is very much something that's essential for the health of our hair, skin, and nails. Zinc, something you're going to hear me talk about almost every time it seems I have a health talk. And then I put trace minerals in there, because trace minerals are those minerals that are mostly missing from our soil. So it makes sense to me that it's something we want to make sure that we're getting enough of. And it's not just the iron and the zinc, but how they occur, again, in nature. So other trace minerals like iodine be very helpful for skin. And so we want to make sure that we're getting these basic building blocks to make sure that we have what we need to be able to build it. Does this all make sense to everybody so far? Now, if we're talking about nails, I would throw one more thing in here, and that would be calcium. We want to make sure that we're getting a good available source of calcium, so I'll point that out and fill in the gaps for that. Okay, so hair. Where do we get these building blocks? A balanced diet with a variety of foods that we need. Actually, I'm going to go back to this. I forgot. I want to say one thing about this. All right, so we got all these things, right? And we throw them in a pot. Do we have the soup yet? Do we have what it really takes to make this? It's just like taking something like chicken noodle soup. If you just take all the ingredients for chicken noodle soup and you throw it in the pot, does that make chicken noodle soup? Probably not, right? There are other things that have to happen in order for that to become soup. We'll need heat and things like that. And that's what I want you to think about with the nutrients that you're putting in your body as well. Just because you're throwing the nutrients in the body doesn't necessarily that your body's able to utilize it. Again, like with those fat-soluble vitamins, if you are eating a low-fat or no-fat diet, you're going to have a hard time utilizing fat-soluble vitamins, right? Okay. So I attempted to create a little bit of a checklist of things that I would try to eat at least on a weekly basis so that you're getting most of the key points that we're talking about for these nutrients that we're trying to cover. I picked up on walnuts because I think walnuts are great for multiple reasons. Obviously, it's a good source of your fats. It's one of the best sources of the omega-3 actually in the plant kingdom. Protein, of course. Fiber I didn't put up there. I always say that for nuts. It's always fat, protein, and fiber, right? Great source for those. You get your vitamin E. Vitamin E is one thing that we're missing a lot. Why are we missing vitamin E? Because, go ahead. Not enough walnuts. There you go. No, that's one of the reasons we're missing vitamin E also is it's one of the things that's pulled out of foods that get processed. Because it's something that will go rancid, it'll go bad quickly. So a lot of the foods that we're eating, especially if they're processed foods, they're missing that essential component. So really important to make sure we're getting vitamin E when we can in a whole food. I put copper in here too because copper will actually contribute to the shininess of the hair. And we actually do need some copper, and we need to get it in a balance. That's one thing to think about. And of course I put biotin in there just to pop it out for everybody who's looking for that biotin, right? Just so you know, even though that you've been trained to think and look for biotin, you're going to get a little bit in your walnut. And also I put this up there because this past weekend I was on a flight to California, and this big gentleman sat next to me, 18-year-old football player, 6'4", huge guy, and we got talking about nutrition. And he was going out to the Amen Clinic, which we talked about just last week, to get a brain scan because he had too many concussions from playing football already. He was passed out. They actually removed him from the team, so he had to get out there to do that. So we got talking about nutrition and what he should do, and I mentioned walnuts to him. I said, well, you know, one of the best things you could do is eat a walnut. I mean, it looks like a brain, right? So it's got to be good for your brain. And he had never eaten a walnut. 18-year-old, almost professional athlete, just never ate a walnut once in his life. So, you know, I'm not getting endorsed by the walnut companies of the world, but I'm saying maybe just eat a walnut or two once in a while, and you'll get a lot of benefit from that. So if you're making a checklist, try to get a walnut in there once or twice a week. On that note, too, when we talk about the blue zones, remember, those cultures around the world who tend to live the longest, the lowest incidences of obesity, cancer, heart disease, they all eat a handful of raw nuts every day. Right? That was one of the commonalities, so that's a good way to get it in. Mushrooms are something that I know some people avoid for some reason. They think they're terrible, but I find that there are multiple benefits to getting mushrooms into your diet. And again, that vitamin B complex shows up. When I look down my list of nutrients in my book, when we're looking for this vitamin B, this vitamin B, this vitamin B, mushroom comes up almost every time. So there's a lot of great benefits to mushrooms. You're also getting vitamin C in your mushrooms, which is kind of cool. A little bit of vitamin D, it's one of the only natural sources of that, and a little bit of iron and zinc depending on the source that you're getting it from. So you're checking off those lists too. And I always throw this fact out about mushrooms when we talk about nutritionfacts.org. There's the video where Dr. Greger talks about breast cancer and one of the best things that you can do. And one of the amounts that they found consistently in those cultures that had the lowest incidence of breast cancer was a half a mushroom a day, right? Just a half of a white button mushroom a day made a huge impact on that. So just getting a little bit of mushrooms every week is going to make a really big difference for you. All right, I also try to make sure that I'm getting some type of lentils and kidney beans. Right? That's why we made this little salad up here with the kidney beans. There's also going to be a little bit of calcium that you're going to find in there as well, from what we were talking about before. But again, in those blue zones around the world, the cornerstone to all of their diets are beans. So you want to make sure you're getting a good source of beans. And it shocks me how many times people aren't eating lentils, or how many times we talk about somebody eating lentil soup, and I have people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s look at me and go, I've never tried that. Never tried lentil soup. Well, you're missing out, right? Because you're missing out on your vitamin B complex, again, the whole complex. Biotin, for those of you still worried about biotin. Vitamin C, iron, zinc, and protein. All right, so you're hitting a lot of notes with some really good food up here. And of course, you're getting a little bit of fiber in there too, which is one of the things that's massively missing. And I would put on my list also eggs. Okay, eggs are one of those things that people get a little worried about, and I think it's okay to take a break from eggs once in a while, absolutely. But you're missing out on so many wonderful aspects of health if you're not getting eggs in your diet at some point. So I try to get eggs in once or twice a week. You're getting your vitamin A, vitamin B, a little bit of biotin in there, again, vitamin D, iron, protein, and fat, right? So you've got almost a perfect food there. There's a lot going on in that egg that's going to help you out. Kale and spinach. Okay, I had to throw kale in there, just I had to throw it a bone, right? It's everywhere. This is why. Great source of vitamin A, great source of vitamin C, and you even get a little bit of iron and zinc. So if you're getting kale or spinach in there, if you're getting a combination of all of these, you're pretty much you're checking off all the boxes that we just talked about. But you're also going to get some good calcium in this too. So if you want to make sure that you're getting all of those building blocks into your body to make sure that your body can grow hair, can grow nails, and regenerate your skin, then this is what we're going to be looking at. Now I'm going to throw one last one in there that I know a lot of people probably don't eat, and that's oysters. Now seafood, you hear me talk a lot about seafood. I already saw a face over here. But just because this actually hits every single one on that list, believe it or not. That's one food that does that. And there's a lot of seafood that's going to give you a lot of nutrients. So I always am a big proponent of eating things that come from the sea. And this is a really good one as far as hitting all of those things that you need. Okay, so now we have the basic building blocks, right? We have all those plus calcium. So if I'm creating a checklist for myself, I want to make sure I'm getting a little bit of all of those all the time. And if I'm eating these every week, I'm getting a little bit, right? And then I need to kind of figure out where my weakness is. So that's the hair, and that's the nails, and now the skin also is need all of these components. Now, one of the things to think about when we're talking about hair, skin, and nails is the timing issue. Your skin regenerates how quickly? About how long does it take for your...
7 years.
7 years? Actually, every 30 days.
What?
Your skin, yeah, will regenerate. So you can see a massive difference in your skin in just 30 days if you start to make some differences. So that's a good way to kind of figure out what you're doing, whether it's working or it's not working, right? Because you're getting a quick turnaround on that. Nails, you're looking at somewhere between 3 and 6 months, right, over the course of that. And you can start to see things, and there are people that will help you kind of determine possible deficiencies or excesses that you've eaten by looking at your nails. Something to think about. And your hair as well will take a little bit longer, so we're looking at time frame of that. But okay, so let's say we put all these things in the body, but are we digesting them? Super, super important to understand this, because no superfood can help you if your digestive system is unhealthy. And I just want to make a point up here, and I put up missing organs. And missing organs because what organ are a lot of people tending to be without these days? Or being removed? Gallbladder, right, absolutely. Now the gallbladder, we have to understand, is something that stores bile. And bile is really essential for the utilization of all the fats. We want to make sure that we're getting plenty of fats in our diet for all of those fat-soluble vitamins, for your brain, for your skin. You have cholesterol in your skin, you have all kinds of use for fats in your body. But if you have a compromised ability to digest it, then you need to make sure that you're getting those things that your body needs to continue to produce the bile and support that absence. So just make sure, and bile is one of those things that you can actually substitute. You can supplement if you need to. And I would encourage you, if you don't have a gallbladder, make sure you're doing one or the other to make sure that you're using that. Because if you're throwing all that vitamin A, D, and E in there and you're just not getting the benefit of it because you're not using fats, what's the point, right? And you're looking at this thing going, why isn't it working, right? Throw some more biotin at it. That'll help. And acid reflux is another one that we talk about too, because there's a lot of people just not digesting protein, right? If you're having acid reflux, or if you're stopping the acid in your stomach, then you're stopping or reducing greatly the ability of your body to break down proteins. That's the point of the acids. In order for those proteolytic enzymes to be activated, they have to be of a really low pH. So if we stop that from being acidic and try to alkalize it too much, we stop our ability to break those down. And that's your keratin, right? That's your collagen. Really important to make sure that you're being able to get those proteins to be able to replace those. And again, if you're only getting so many proteins, your body's using those amino acids for the things to keep you alive, vital organs, brain function, executive function, neurotransmitters, right? So it's really important that we're getting enough proteins and digesting all those proteins to make sure we're keeping our hair, skin, and nails healthy as well. Makes sense, right, so far? Okay, so this is really important to keep in mind when we're doing that. So if we're going to go a little bit deeper, then we have to look at removing the obstacles to all of these things. And obviously digestion was an obstacle, but stress can become a major obstacle to growing your hair as well. Again, your body is going to start to relegate those resources to keep you alive, especially if it feels like there is imminent danger. It's going to say, do I really need hair to keep me, safe from whatever danger is happening? Do I really need, my skin to look great? Probably not, right? It's going to make sure that other things are happening. So we do a lot of talks about stress. We talk about our adrenal talk and stress, and that's something just to think about, finding ways to manage your stress. But if you are taking all the nutrients and digesting all the nutrients as best you can, then you need to maybe start looking at your stress levels. However, Dr. Strong will point out that if you've got stress, your digestion is probably not working very well. Because again, that's not a priority for your body at the moment, okay? Hormone imbalances. This is a big one. When it comes to hair in particular, there is one thing that you're going to hear a lot of people talk about, and that's DHT, dihydrotestosterone. This is something that testosterone turns into. And if you'll notice, a lot of times there's a lot of guys who are getting testosterone shots, and you see them working out in the gym. What else do you notice? Their hair starts to thin, right, and fall off. Because that DHT in high amounts can really, really be aggressive in slowing down and thinning out the hair. So obviously you want to find ways to keep your hormones balanced, be clearing excess hormones from your body. But Dr. Strong will talk about a couple of herbs that make a really big difference when it comes to DHT. So if you've isolated everything else, and you're thinking that maybe it's a DHT issue, then there's a couple of things that would be really powerful. I think it's soft palmetto and pumpkin seed oil, right? I think those are the big ones. But also, when we're looking at hormone imbalances, we're looking at thyroid function, right? The endocrine system has a lot to do with that. In your skin, you're going to notice if you have a thyroid issue, and that will impact your skin. Your skin is also going to be impacted by your digestion. So when we're thinking about the skin and all the things that gets very complicated when you're having rashes or outbreaks, one of the things I always remind myself of is the fact that your skin is considered your third kidney. So drinking lots of water is going to help remove those toxins, but it's also an eliminatory organ. If you're not getting the garbage out through those channels, it's going to get it out through the skin. You've got 4 eliminatory organs. You've got your bowels, your bladder, you've got your lungs, and your skin. And if you are not getting those toxins out in other ways, then that's one of the ways that it's going to manifest. So you want to make sure you're supporting your organs of elimination so that you're not forcing toxins out another way. But then we think about skin again, we have to think about digestion from the top down, right? If you don't have enough stomach acid, not enough protein, not enough collagen for your skin. If you don't have the bile, if you don't have the fat digestion, you're not going to have the fats to help keep the skin well, good as well. Small intestine. If you have malabsorption issues, you're not going to be absorbing all of these vitamins to get to the skin to make them healthy. And again, your colon too. If your colon isn't healthy, you're going to have a hard time with your skin being healthy. So when you're thinking about what's showing up on your skin, most of it's coming from the inside out. Not just something that we're going to have to throw in there and think, oh, well, you know, that's the one thing that's going to fix it. No, all of this has to be working right for it to show up. And that's the most important thing. It's a holistic approach that it's going to come from the inside out. Okay? Sleep issues. Wouldn't be a health talk if I didn't mention that we're not getting enough sleep. So sleep will definitely contribute to stress. It'll contribute to hair loss. It'll contribute to your body not being able to get the time it needs to properly do the repairs. You're putting all this good nutrition in there, but you're not giving your body the time to actually do the repairs. So make sure that you're looking at sleep as an issue if that's part of it. And I put traditional dieting up there because, again, we still have this knee-jerk reaction to fat, regardless of what we just found out in the news this week and what we've been talking about forever. We still have this idea that maybe you need to keep your fat a little lower, right, if you're trying to lose weight. And honestly, I don't think you could be further from the truth when it comes to that. If you're reducing your fat, you're cutting fat out of your diet, you're cutting yourself off at the knees to be able to do so many things in your body. So realize there's a real value to having good, healthy fats. Not trans fats. Be careful of those guys. They're going to cause a problem. Okay? All right. Any questions on any of this? There's also going to be a question when it comes to nails that we're going to look at, and that's calcium, being able to utilize calcium. And there are definitely going to be some other things that you're going to look at. And this is where it needs to become an individual basis. You're going to look at somebody and say, okay, let's analyze all these together and figure out what's going on. Is it because you're not getting enough calcium, or is it because you're not utilizing calcium? And what are the reasons that you wouldn't be utilizing calcium? Are you not getting a balance of all those things? So you see, this is much bigger than biotin, right? And actually, when I did my research, I found that most people are actually getting enough biotin, but they were able to market it, right? And say, this is the thing. And watch, you're going to take this biotin and all of a sudden your hair, your skin and nails are going to start to grow. And some people believe that that's what they see. But there's also a huge thing called a placebo that could be at play at that, right? So there's not a lot of real solid science that's supporting that it's that one little isolated thing that's really going to make the difference for all of that. And I always liken when we do something like that to, NFL just started, to a sports analogy. Like vitamin C. If somebody gets sick, they hit that emergency, right? And they feel like it makes a big difference quickly. Or somebody's nails aren't growing, they hit that biotin. And when you do that, you throw something like that into the picture, it's like taking one of the most important players and putting them on the field. It's like getting a new quarterback, right? It's going to, for a time, it's going to make a big difference. But after a while, if you don't change the whole team, you're just going to go back to the way you were before, right? And you're going to utilize all of those unknown players, and you're going to start to create imbalances. So it's so much more important to try to get it all in a whole food source so that you're getting it balanced already. If you're eating the whole food, all of a sudden you're just getting it in a good balance and making sure you're getting a variety of foods. We get into food ruts, we start to get problems, right? When you start eating the same thing over and over and over. But when we eat a little bit of everything all the time, determine what our weaknesses are, that's going to make all the difference. And yes, if I were to make a checklist for myself of things that I want to specifically do, I would know what I'd make for that list for myself because I know what I'm eating, I know how well my digestion is working. So if someone wanted to make sure that that was their goal, we would have to look at all of those things before I would say this is exactly what you need for everything. And it's about restoring function. And I know that we want something now, though, right? We want to look good now, we want our hair to look good now, we want our skin to look good now, and I totally get that. And there are things that you can do to accelerate that. But you're going to have to give yourself at least a month to make a difference, I would say, to really see a difference. All right, that's enough dribble for me. Talking a lot. I'm going to bring up Dr. Strom for a mic drop here because he's got a few things to add to this. So I believe this is your mark.
Right there.
Yeah.
You can hear some dribble from me. All right, I want to go over a couple things that help ensure that you get all the nutrients that you need. Dustin mentioned some foods. The first thing I want to talk about was the general health fundamentals. Now that's going to include a whole food multivitamin, tuna omega-3, and some trace minerals. So most of the things that Dustin talked about are going to be in that handy little packet. Not everything, you still need a lot more protein, you need a lot more other things, that's true. But like we talk about a lot, we say if you do nothing else, at least get your daily fundamentals. The other thing is an herb, it sounds kind of funny, it's called Gotu Kola. Now that's been used for a long time to help strengthen tissue, strengthen ligaments, help with reparative things in your tissues, also to reduce scarring after an injury. And that would be a great addition to add to any hair, skin, nails protocol, amongst other things. People have used it a lot of times for post-surgical issues as well. So it's a great herb for that. With the herbal additions, there's so many ways I can go with that as far as other things I can help out to help balance stress, to allow your body to repair the way it's supposed to. One in particular is handling your adrenal glands. So anything to support your adrenals. Everybody's stressed out. Those are your stress handling glands. Everybody's stressed out every day. I've never met anybody above the age of 16 that doesn't laugh when I say, oh, you're not stressed, are you? Everybody is. It's crazy. So supporting that's going to help your body come down, relax, and allow it to do what it's supposed to do.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Thanks for the mic drop, Doc. Yeah, and I think I heard you refer to Go-to-Cold at one point as Botox in a bottle. Right?
Botox in a
or
bottle.
you heard someone say, yes, it's really helpful for skin. And I know for that fine tissue repair. But again, I put this point up here about the whole food-based organic. If you're going to do something, so much more important to make sure you're getting it in a whole food base, even if it's a supplement, because again, there's all these factors in there that are known and unknown that are the way it's already been packaged. And for us to try to isolate it out and think that, well, this is the one thing that we really need, is just short-sighted in a way. There's just so many, it just doesn't occur that way in nature, so it doesn't make any sense to say that's the only thing that we need to make it. Our bodies are designed to have all of these things and in a balance, and they come balanced in foods. So that's going to be your best medicine, obviously. All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can type them in, and if not, we're going to kill that light, and we're going to answer some questions.